here we are with this sleeve completed, except for the rib. And we go to our pattern where it tells us we're going to have to reduce. I wanted this to be a nice full sleeve, and so I had to hug it in pretty tightly down at the rib. We see that we have 26 stitches by 12 plus 1 row. Just almost, it's the exact same rib that you did at the bottom of your sweaters, except that it is a different number of stitches. Now you have 34 stitches here, and you have to get it down to 26. Ordinarily, when I get to this point, I simply pop them onto my garter bar and reduce them that way with multiple decreases. However, I want to show you a way today to do it without a garter bar. I'm assuming if this is your first sweater that maybe you don't have one. I've taken my main sweater yarn out of the eye of the carriage. I always, you see these automatic reactions. I always pull it so there's a great deal of slack because it's still in the fabric guide. Put your waste yarn all the way down into the eye of the carriage. And we're going to knit 3 rows of waste yarn. This end one doesn't want to knit very well, but that's okay. It's not, well, it isn't okay. It has to knit a little bit, so I'll put my clip on there. When you get to waste yarn, I sometimes tend to skip rows. Not rows, skip steps of things I'm supposed to do. And then, if I can find my scissors, which I'm sure are close by, or not, well, I won't even need them. I'm going to break that. If you can't find your scissors, break it. And I'm going to run the carriage back empty now, and it's going to drop all of this off. So prepare for the drop off. What you're going to do is get rid of those extra weights, grab onto your weighted hem, and knit across. Okay. Now I am going to rehang these, get rid of my clips. See what I told you about leaving slack? I just set my knitting down on top of that slack and it started to pull. I don't want that. I'm going to rehang these just like you rehung the stitches, excuse me, in the seam, but I have to double up. I have to go from 34 to 26. And again, I used that wonderful formula called the straight line decrease, and it told me that I had to decrease every 4th stitch 6 times, or every 5th stitch and every 5th stitch 2 times, or something like that. I can't remember the numbers, and when you're on videotape you're not supposed to stop and look them up because they're on the floor, but as long as they're roughly evenly distributed, we will get them on there. Notice I'm using a 2x1 transfer tool. I think I'd even be better off using a 3, because if I remember correctly, I did a lot of this. I did 1, then I doubled up the second. Now I'm going to lift 3. I remember doing this on a lot of these samples, and I doubled up that way. And twice, it's coming back to me. Notice this is decreasing every 4th stitch. To decrease every 4th stitch, you hang on 3 loops, then double up the 4th. It's a little deceptive, isn't it? You have 1, 2 plain, and then 3 and 4 are on the same thing. So it'll take you a little while to learn to use this decrease. Now I'm going to go every 5th stitch once. Here's the 4th one, and I'll double up the 5th stitch. There it is. Back to every 3rd. By the way, I just put 1 green card back there, and I didn't bother to count to see if I had 26 stitches out. My guess is that I have 24 stitches out, because that's usually what I get with 1 green card. But I remember that formula. See how quickly you can do these? Don't make the mistake of using a waste yarn too close in color, because then they just don't stand out as well. I can even do this. You want to be tricky? Double those up and hang 2 at the same time. 24, 25, 26. Let's see how our formula works out. Oops. Of course, it always catches up to you in the end. Double up those last 3, and that's it. I have my 26. Now, I don't want to rip off this waste yarn. It is going to mark where I'm going to ladder down to latch back up. But there are a couple of cautions here. When you return your knitting to the bed, you will first of all change your key plate to a number 2, because remember, you're working on ribbing again. Then you're going to knit your 12 rows and knit that one last row with a key plate 4, tugging down very hard on your bottom hem so that you get a good long loop. Then you're going to latch down every 3rd stitch, and the number should work out okay. I planned on that part. But when you drop those stitches down with your latch hook tool, well, I can use a transfer tool, it's even better. Notice how you have some of these stitches here doubled up. Okay? Make sure that you get your latch hook tool through both of those. Now, if you don't, it's not a major disaster. You'll just have dropped a stitch. But as I said, it's like dropping a pencil or a transfer tool. You can pick it right back up again. What you can do is get a little hairpin or a safety pin and stick it in there, and you can work it in with the thread later. So you may stop the tape and complete this sleeve by completing this ribbing. After you latch it up, bind it off, take it entirely off the frame, and rejoin me. Here we are. You now have 3/4 of a sweater, a front, a back, and a sleeve. And please note that they're conveniently attached and you won't have to sew those seams later. And despite that very nice, polite anecdote I told you recently about the man who said that knitting teaches patience, it's along about this point that I start to lose patience with all these strings that are hanging. It's not the messiness that bothers me, it's that if I have them hanging sometimes and I drag it across the floor, I will step on them or I will get them entangled in something, and I end up pulling my stitches too tight and I have to go back with a needle and thread to work all the stitches back to tension. So this is what I do instead. Just along about this point, I lay it out on a table and I start string analysis, is what it's called. Okay, do I need a very long string here? Here we are at the very front of the neck. No, I got a little hole and that's about 4 inches, that's good. Now see this string? This was left long to knit this shoulder, and we don't need very much anymore. So we've got a little hole to close up, so I'll leave about 4 inches, snip it off. Then come down to the bottom of this sleeve, and remember I had you leave this long string so that you could work up the seam later and you wouldn't have to have an extra end. I roll that up a little bit around my finger, just set it on the inside of where I'm going to use it for a seam, and stick a safety pin in it. It is very safe. What have we here? Here we have a very long string indeed. This is the long string that was left over at the neck rib because we want to use this to tack down that neck rib. So I'm going to tie that down. And just continue going through your piece, finding all the long strings that you want to keep, pin them up very neatly, and the rest you may cut off, leaving at least 4 inches with every end. Now is your chance to knit the other sleeve. Just exactly the same way you did the other, and when you have finished that other sleeve, you may rejoin me and we're going to start sewing up.